Welcome to Under the Wings Helmet. I'm Kyle Simmons, and I'm joined by former Michigan and NFL offensive lineman Thomas Gwines and the host of the ASAP Elite podcast, Rob Penn.
What up, dog?
This week's episode is sponsored by Jabs Gym. Learn the fundamentals of boxing through high-intensity cardio and strength workouts with locations in Metro Detroit, the Eastern Market, Ferndale, and Birmingham. We would also like to thank Juke. You can purchase their gear at jukefootball.com. Last Saturday, the Wolverines defeated Indiana 52-7 at the Big House. J.J. McCarthy completed 14 of 22 passes for 222 yards and 3 touchdowns. Blake Corum had 52 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns, and Colston Loveland had 3 catches for 80 yards and a touchdown. This is the second straight game where the Wolverines scored 52 points, and the 7th straight game this season where the defense held the opponent to 10 points or under. Thomas, do you think this team is starting to find their groove?
I think we definitely saw some hiccups. I definitely believe that we have some improvement to do. Offensive line gave up 4 sacks in one game. Up until that point, we had given up 3 sacks for the whole season. I think we did a really good job as far as showing overall balance. We had a 244-yard game in passing, mixed in with 163 yards total rushing. So that was a pretty balanced attack. But again, as I told you guys last week, Indiana was going to definitely come in here to play. They had something to prove. And, they gave – the score doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, show the type of game that it was. We were definitely moving in quicksand during that first half, that first quarter. We had a couple big plays, started to get the momentum turned into our favor. And then we did what we normally do. I think we started to win the war of attrition up front. And that's when things really started to pick up for the team overall. Again, Indiana, still a young team, in my opinion. They still have a long way to go. But some of the miscues that we had during this game is definitely going to need to be worked out as we continue to move forward in the season. Going over to East Lansing, tough place to play. The crowd is super close to the bench. And obviously they're going to play a spirited game trying to keep the Paul Bunyan trophy or trying to get the Paul Bunyan trophy back. So I'm just hoping that whatever's taking place up front with the offensive line, we get that worked out and get back to rolling how we normally do.
Well, from what I saw, it was a culmination of, all the games, that led up to this point. I like to point out the fact that, we put up 52 points with 42 rushing attempts, and only 23 passing attempts. That's pretty damn good. And also we scored on 8 straight possessions, especially to close out the game. We had Jack Tuttle to come in and also throw a touchdown. Looked like he was having a good time out there. Like I said, once again, last week, I think our biggest step was 1 penalty for 5 yards. This week, 2 for 20. We're playing mistake-free football. Like I say, Thomas is watching the game from a different angle, being the fact that he's a brother of the trenches. So, he's able to see things and predict things that we're not able to see, especially as receivers. As we look at, are we out of that 14 to 17, 222 yards and 3 touchdowns? You know what I'm saying? And everybody just matriculating the ball everywhere, taking advantage of the blown coverages and being patient and not having to wing it 30 times. That's a beautiful thing, So I get it, man. I love it. We're playing good ball. Like I say, we're putting up scores in the Big Ten during the Big Ten season that we should have been putting in, against Bowling Green in Eastern Carolina. But, I ain't tripping.
This Saturday, the number 2 ranked Michigan Wolverines travel to East Lansing to face Little Brother at Spartan Stadium. The Spartans are 2-4 on the season, 0-3 in the Big Ten, coming off their 4th straight consecutive loss at Rutgers. Thomas, as we all know, we have to throw out the records when it comes to this matchup, and Little Brother would love to spoil our season this weekend. So what are we going to do to make sure that that is not the case?
Historically, Michigan State week has always been a big week for us. It's one of those red and green games. Michigan State, Notre Dame, as far as the green, the team from down south is the red. Definitely one of those marquee games that we have down at Schembecker Hall. The guys are going to tape up their helmets. As far as the demonstration squad, will tape their helmets up in green tape. The crowd noise is going to be off the hook. And, again, this is about going in and, as Rob said, playing mistake-free football. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot. Let's continue to go out there and do what we have been doing. But again, understanding, and just like you said, you got to throw the records out of the equation because of the fact that it's a rivalry game. These dudes hate us down to their marrow. And to your point, they would love nothing but to come in and get that feather in their cap this year by knocking off the number 2 Wolverines. But I personally, like I said, as long as the big fellas up front do what they need to do and we start grinding on these guys, I think we're going to be all right. Also, be aware of the trickeration. Again, their season's pretty much toast. So they have nothing to hold back right now. So anytime on the punt game, the field goal game, anything like that, I feel like these guys are going to probably break out some exotic looks, try to bring a little bit of trickeration to the game in order to get the momentum back on their side. And but other than that, as long as we stay focused, play mistake-free football, let JJ be JJ, let the big boys up front do what they do, let my front 7 continue to get home, I think we're going to have a great day. Paul Bunyan stay here in the friendly confines of Schembechler Hall.
Rob, what do you think is going to be the key to getting this win?
Last week, Michigan State, pushed Rutgers to the limits. That's a good football team. Gave them all that they can handle. Rutgers had to come back, within the last quarter, down by, I want to say, 15, and only winning by 3. But the fact is that they were down. So this team is scrappy, man. Let's throw out the fact that we are the least penalized team in the nation, the top 10 scoring offense, and that we have, 19 straight Big Ten victories. All that's out the window because this is where we were 2 years ago. When I was sitting there watching it, and then I watched Kenneth Walker, just come anew and just, become a Michigan State legend on us, ultimately setting us back to, get Georgia in that that playoff game. So, yeah, we can't take anything light against them. Another big fact that I want to bring light to is 996. That's where we are, sitting at most victories. 4 more games to go. Nothing shows me or tells me that this game will halt that momentum, but at the same time, like you say, this is Michigan State, and this has been a thorn outside for the entire lifespan of us being Michigan fans. So, yeah, man, they're going to come out to play. Ultimately, like I said, they're not built up front for the long run and that boa constrictor that we're talking about. They're going to get caught up in it also. We're not going to put 50 on it. It's not going to be a 50-7 game. I think that they might actually break over the 10-point ratio. So we'll see how that goes. That's it.
All about getting a W coming out of that piece healthy. Again, keep the trophies here in Ann Arbor. Come back to good old Ann Arbor healthy and sound. But make sure when we come back with a W. That's all I really care about at this point. And to your point, Rob, they're going to come out throwing their best shots based off of all the turmoil they've had during the offseason, everything that they've been dealing with as a team and just as young men. What greater galvanizing point could they have this year by knocking off the Wolverines? So, again, I'm sure Coach Harbaugh and the rest of the assistant coaches will have these guys fired up and ready to go. And the beautiful thing about, I don't think we really give enough attention to the fact that there's so many former Michigan players that are now on the coaching staff over at Schembechler Hall, guys that have played in these games, won these games, and they understand what it's really about. And so I think that's a huge benefit for Wolverine Nation, just as far as having these position coaches able to feed into their guys what these particular situations are about. Not just because it's Michigan State, it's because I've been there, I've played in it. I understand the ramifications, how these games can truly affect the season and the culture down at the building. So I just want to tip my hat to those former players that came back and that are continuing to pour into these young guys wearing the winged helmet.
Like I said, it's going to come down to this defense making plays, in their front line. Simple as that. We're going to lean on them. Like I say, it's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be a 8-9 possession scoring game, where JJ won't play in the fourth quarter. It won't be that, But if it is, Let's go ahead and hang 60 on them. Shit. Go blue.
And that's it for this week's episode of Under the Wings Helmet. Thank you to our sponsors, Jabs Gym and Juke. Also, be sure to check out Under the Wing Helmet merchandise at asapelite.com. Come back next week where we preview the game versus Purdue. And be sure to listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and the Believe Podcast Network. You can also watch us on asapelite.com and the ASAP Elite YouTube channel. For Thomas Gwines and Rob Penn, I'm Kyle Simmons. Go Blue.
Hell yeah.